Welcome to Card Players The Circuit, hosted by your favorite set, Scott Huff, Gavin Smith, and Joe Seabach.
She lied again. 2 days in a row she has lied. Joe Seabach not here, but this is The Circuit.
I
Scott
wish
Huff,
you were there now.
Gavin Smith, and guest co-host Chris Bell here right now from the Legends of Poker at the Bicycle Casino in Bell Gardens, California. It is the official start of day 3, right around the corner here, about an hour and 15 minutes away from starting up day 3. And Card Player's own Barry Schulman is in the top 5. Did you know this?
I see that.
He's number 2.
And let's also look at, in the 11th spot, Eric Lindgren.
11? Really?
11th in chips, Eric Lindgren.
Eric Lindgren, 11th in chips, looking just outside. We have a great show for everybody today. We're going to have some hand of the day, phone calls, poker talk with Big G and Chris Bell, since the baby kangaroo is not here, emails, and our guest today is still alive. Our guest today is not still alive here at the Legends of Poker, Chad Brown.
Well, he's alive. He's just not in the tournament.
He's still living, but he is not still alive in the tournament.
Thank God Chad's still alive.
I was supposed to say was just eliminated yesterday, but I said still alive.
Today's also the special day where we're going to honor somebody who's not still alive, though.
That is true. We have a lot going on today, actually, a lot to report. First of all, though, Chris, thanks for coming in and picking up the slack for Seabach. He is a slacker.
Thanks for having me.
He's en route. He's en route from the Valley, so hopefully he'll get here at some point.
From the Valley.
That's right. He's in the Valley.
From the Valley.
He's probably with a girl.
Imagine
right,
that.
Valley girls. That's imagine that. Joe Seabach with a girl.
Maybe the first.
Joe Seabach, though, is not here and gearing up to play because yesterday the most hilarious thing ever happened, which was he was eliminated with confrontations between 2 people who have been on the show this week. First, Vanessa Russo took the first 3/4 of his chips, and then Yosh Nakano finished them off. So come on the circuit and eliminate one of the co-hosts. Just completely bludgeoned him.
It used to be come on, make the final table. Now it's come on, mess up Joe Seabach.
That's right. Gavin Smith, we didn't get to talk to you yesterday because you were not here about what happened to you with the Legends of Poker. So why don't you tell us what happened?
I was doing really well. I then played a dumb pot where I flopped a set of 6s when there was a draw there, and for whatever reason I chose not to raise the flop. The flush got there on the turn. I called a $5,000 bet, and on the river I checked and the guy moved all in for 16,000, and he really was acting like he was super strong. And I don't know who the guy is, so typically if they're acting super strong, they're not. I was just really surprised at the way he was acting, and eventually I decided to call with my set of 6s, and he hit the nut flush. So no wonder he was acting super strong. He was super strong. And so that took me down to 5,000. But I said, I'm not giving up here. I'm going to keep going. And I fought back up to about 30,000. I was doing fine. I lost a pretty key pot. I lost a really weird pot where I raised with 2 queens coming in. This guy calls me out of the blind, out of the small blind. Flop comes 8-10 queen. Yes, it is. Right? He checks. I bet something. He moves all in on me. And obviously I top set. I call him right away. And he goes, I got the nuts. And then so I don't fill up. He wins the pot. He takes about 14,000 off me on that one, I think. And then after the hand, it's I'm like, well, I'm glad you didn't have more chips. And he says to me, well, if I had more chips, I wouldn't have called. And I'm, huh? He goes, yeah, if I had more chips, I wouldn't have called. I'm like, are you nuts? That's a little backwards, don't you think? You wouldn't call me with this speculative hand if you have more chips, but you would if you're low, because the Jack 9 says, it's only like a mid-range stack hand. I mean, it was so weird. But so that took me down. And then with 4 minutes left in the day, JC Tran raised to 1,300. Same guy with the Jack 9 calls 1,300. I have about 17,000. I look down at, I got Ace King in the blind. I mean, I can't re-raise here. I'm not going to re-raise and dump the hand. So I just moved in, and JC called me with 2 queens, and guy mucked Ace Queen face up, and Ace
you
King
don't want to see that.
Ace King never got there.
Chris, how did the Legends go for you? How long did you last?
I started off pretty good. I got 30,000 really quick, and then I went for maybe 2.5 hours without winning a hand, literally not winning a hand at all. And when you play a lot of hands and you don't win one for 2.5, 3 hours, then all of a sudden you have 9,000. So then I had 2 jacks against 2 queens was my last hand. I raised, got re-raised, and I moved all in. He called.
So that was it. It was all day one.
Yeah.
And then Chris also had one of the worst things to ever happen if you're running a little bit card dead. He was at Grinder's table, who's in every freaking pot. He's in so many pots, he plays them all at his table and goes over to a couple other tables and plays a few there too.
He really does, man. That guy's a nut.
It's spooky how many hands he plays. I played with just about everybody in poker, and he plays by far more hands than anybody I've ever played with. I didn't even close.
I play a lot of hands, and I said to Chris, I said, Chris, does he play more than me? And that's what Chris said. He goes, it's not even close. And I'm like, how can it not even be close? I'm playing like 75% of the hands. Turns out he's playing like 160% of the hands.
He sure is. But he was also eliminated yesterday, actually, so he will not be back. Day 3, as we said, about to begin here today. They will be playing down to the WPT final table today. Top 5 in chips as follows right now. Javid Giovanni in first place with $553,000. He's a local here to the bike, actually. Barry Schulman in second with $402,000. Joe Pelton in third with $385,000. Darren Nyschuler with $357,000, and Scotty the Train Win with $352,500. And as we said, also lurking just outside, Twan Lee, Hoyt Corkins, Tim Fan, and E-Dog.
Hey, you want to hear like a freaky prediction?
Sure.
Here's my prediction. None of the top 5 will make the final table.
Chris Bell, agree or disagree?
Who was in fifth?
Fifth was Scotty the Train Win. Chris Bell is pensive. None of the top 5? You agree? Disagree?
20 people left?
50 people.
50
people left?
51 officially.
We can make a bet on that. I'll gamble and take one of the top 5 and make the final table.
Yeah,
wow, he's making you put your money where your mouth is.
You got to lay a little something, obviously, right?
Well, no, you didn't.
I just said a prediction. I didn't say a bet.
Okay, well, I predicted one will. You want to bet on it or not?
Well,
who predicted you think will become right?
We both predicted, but I will bet it as long as you lay a low price. You got to lay me...
I'm not laying you a very big price.
Let me 800 to 500. I'll bet it.
I'll do that if we double our other bet.
No, same bet.
This is a gambling show or what, boys?
It's a bet. It's a bet.
It is a bet. 800 to 500 right now.
One of the top 5.
One of those top 5, and I'll have to make sure I stave this so we know who the top 5 were today.
Right.
To make sure that we don't.
Sorry for rooting against you now, Barry.
Bad action. All right, so we also had eliminated yesterday Roland DeWolf, Freddie D, Paul Waska, second place finisher at the World Series of Poker, Chad Brown, The Grinder, Chip Jet, John Fan, Toby McGuire. I'm very upset. Mel Silverfox Judah was also eliminated yesterday from play. Eric Seidel, Victor Hampton.
I think he really likes that nickname, though. I really think he likes that because yesterday I went up to him like, "Hey, Silverfox," and he's like, "Hey," and shakes my hand like really vigorously. So
really?
I think he enjoys being called Silverfox.
All right, perfect. Well, now it's time for some poker news. Poker news. It's Slamastica.
It's really
the source here is the India E-News. They say that Daniel Craig, and remember we talked about this on the show a while back, Daniel Craig, who's playing James Bond in the new Casino Royale movie, is now a poker expert. I don't buy it since he didn't even know what hole cards were before.
Wait a sec. I have decided now that I am now a neurosurgeon expert.
You are now an actor, a famous actor. You are now James Bond.
I'm an acting expert. I've just declared it. You can't just declare yourself an expert. What is that?
I don't know. Well, what they said was apparently they had to learn the game, and this was his quote.
Who is an expert? I'm not an expert. Are you an expert, Chris?
No, not even close.
Who the hell is an expert?
So, yeah, maybe Daniel Craig is getting a little too big for his britches already here.
Bring him on. Let's play him.
All right, that's it. It's an open challenge to whoever the production company is for the new Bond movie. Anyone here, including myself, will take on Daniel Craig heads up.
And we're happy to televise it, too. We're happy to televise kicking Daniel Craig, the expert's ass.
James Bond's ass directly back to...
We'll let him pick whatever game he wants. It don't even have to be Hold'em.
Daniel.
He can pick any game.
Daniel Craig.
Here was his quote. He said, "We had to learn the game and to look convincing playing it, and let's just say there were some extracurricular sessions that went on off the set. I think that some were playing for their week's wages."
Wow.
Which actually, if a week's wage on the James Bond movie could be a lot of money, actually.
Could be, but
it's probably not the same as like your week's wage at Burger King.
No, but I've lost like pretty impressively big week's wages in single nights before, so we're okay with it.
So it still doesn't
we
make
can
you
garner up enough money to play him.
I think so.
I think we can handle it.
Well, we have an email here in regard to a poker news segment that we had a couple days ago about Jamie Gold's lawsuit that's going on. This is very interesting. You remember Scott, the kid who was writing the poker book that came and hung out and watched the show? He sent this email, said, "Hey guys, I'm a couple of episodes behind in listening to the circuit, so this may have been addressed. But on the 26th, you guys talked about the Jamie Gold lawsuit, and I have some answers about that." He's a law student, remember. lawyer, said, I spoke with my contracts professor and we discussed the details of the case. The first thing you would do if you were Gold's lawyer is to scour Nevada gaming regulations because the alleged contract promised half the action in a gambling proposition. It could be argued that Gold didn't promise half his equity so much as act as the house for a bet that Lizer placed. If Nevada law finds such an arrangement between two parties, neither of which have a gaming license, to be unlawful, that could end the case in Gold's favor right there, which is pretty damn interesting, I think. If they decide that it was a proposition, Gold can end up keeping the $12 million, and maybe Crispin Lizer going and getting legal counsel would end up being a big mistake if he can fight and win it if he actually had intended to pay him in the first place.
Right.
So that could get weird. Then the second half is, he says failing that, there's not much Gold can do here. If the voicemail exists and they decide that it's a binding contract, then the guy's going to get his $6 million. But how crazy would that be if he just got a little impatient, pulled the trigger too soon on legal counsel, and lost half because his lawyers went after it?
I mean, I truly believe that he was given bad advice and jumping the gun that quickly. I mean, I think he should have gone to Jamie and said, look, Jamie, this is like more money than I've ever dreamed of. I mean, this is huge. What's going on? And then then at that point, if Jamie says, well, what's going on is I'm not paying you, then you can then go for legal counsel. But I mean, I think you should give the guy the chance to say that he's going to screw you before you just assume he's going to.
But it'd been like 5 or 6 days, though, right?
Yeah, but from what I heard, apparently there was reasons for that, and that Jamie wanted to set up some sort of LLC before he paid out the money. I mean, he hasn't collected the money yet.
Right, I understand.
So if he hasn't collected the money yet, I think it's too early to assume that he's not going to pay you.
But he didn't have to collect his part of it, did he? In order to give,
I think he was trying.
Crispin his part.
Maybe he was considering setting up a corporation though to try to make things as tax friendly as possible.
Right, because that is a lot of money.
So, but I mean, I think you got to at least give the guy the chance to collect his money before you assume he's not going to pay you.
But you have to be a really, really good friend with a guy to trust him with $6 million.
I agree.
Of your money.
I agree. I mean, I'm not saying you're not going to go for legal action, but you don't have to just do it like the first day. You can wait.
We didn't do it the first day. Did like 6 days.
Well, it's going to be pretty interesting.
You can wait like a couple weeks.
If it turns out,
I'm not waiting a couple weeks for my $6 million when you win. When you win next year and you owe me like $4.2 million, I want it within 48 hours.
All right.
And now it's time for Poker Talk with Big G and the
Chris
baby.
Bell.
And the baby Chris Bell.
Our concept today is how you play an early chip lead. And Gavin, I don't know if you're the one who should be dispensing advice about this, but our staff here on the circuit and at Card Player gave me this concept today because actually Alex Enriquez in a charity tournament we played the other day got out to a really early chip lead. He just got smashed in the face by the deck, like aces twice, kings twice, and ace king a couple times in the first couple orbits, and got a ton of chips together. And they wanted to know the optimal way to play when you get a hold of a lot of chips early. How you should really be playing? Should you be getting aggressive? Should you be sitting back?
Well,
what do you do? Gavin Smith, you first.
Well,
then baby Chris Bell.
I mean, I would be aggressive in either case. But one thing I think is really important to note when you get like a good chip lead is you got to be careful to not go too crazy. Like a lot of times, like I'm going to play my typical style where I'm raising a lot of pots, and I'm going to raise like say like a 9-8, right? And then I'm going to get this re-raise in. Like say Chris re-raised me. So say I make it 75 to go, and Chris Bell makes it like 325, and I'm like, well, hell, I got like 5,000. I'll take one off here, and that's what you got to avoid. You got to avoid just making the loose calls because you can afford it. Because before long, if you make enough of these little loose calls because you can afford it, you don't have this big chip lead anymore. You've just pumped people up a lot, and so I mean, I think you can continue being real aggressive pre-flop. As the first raiser, but I think you got to make sure that when calling re-raises and when playing hands post-flop, you're not getting super loosey-goosey there.
Chris Bell?
I agree. You want to avoid giving those courtesy double ups. Just because you have a big chip lead and you raise with even like a king down of diamonds and somebody moves all in for 30,000, you made it like 6 or 7. Like, okay, I got 320, and you throw, you call. Like Gavin and Lane, it's funny we're talking about this now. Gavin and Lane were talking about it yesterday that the hardest thing to do is to play a big stack. I mean, you can make so many more mistakes, and that's one of them. Just continuously giving someone a courtesy double up, or and just really gambling when you don't need to. Again, I'd do the same thing Gavin talked about. I raise a lot anyway, so I'd continue raising a lot of hands, but you need to avoid like calling too big of re-raises, with marginal hands.
Who are some of the players on the tour that play a big stack very well, would you say, in your assessment?
I think the best is probably, Grinder's great at it.
That's what I was going to say, Grinder.
Phil Ivey is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Alan Cunningham is great. The guys you expect that would be great at it are great at it. Barry Greenstein plays a big stack really, really well. I mean, he's super aggressive. He'll
saw that in Reno for sure.
Pound on you like you can't believe and get hit over the head with a deck.
All right, now it's time for a hand of the day. Nice hand, sir.
Nicely done, Denny.
Nicely done, Denny. This one was from yesterday, right here at the Legends of Poker, and the new way we do it, we're not going to tell you what the hole cards were. We're going to let you guys make some predictions and talk about the play of this hand. The way it started was with Jennifer Tilly raising from middle position to 2,000. Have you guys heard about this hand, by the way, already?
No.
I have not.
Good. Jennifer Tilly makes a raise from middle position to 2,000, and the guy sitting next to her, who I will call Guy and Visor, makes it 8,000 to go. Mm-hmm. Masood Pour Habib, who started the day either the chip leader... No. Masood Pour Habib, not the same guy, dude.
It's still worthy of a Hassan Habib. It's always worthy of a Hassan Habib.
Nice try there, Danny. Anyways, Masood Pour Habib, not to be mistaken with Hassan Habib, who started the day either first or second in chips, then makes it 20,000. Comes over the second raise. Then then Jennifer Tilly gets back to her. She moves in for 64,500.
Okay.
More
or 64,500?
Sorry, 64,500 total, which made it 40,000.
Okay.
Just over 44,500 more. Guy and Visor then calls all in for 17,000. Poor Habib thinks about it for a while, has them count it down, and with a pretty deep stack still, but not incredibly deep where it won't hurt him, he calls 44,500 more.
Okay.
Predict the three hands if you can, and talk about the play of this hand, or what people should be having at this point.
Jennifer Tilly, my guess, has probably got about 2 queens, maybe 2 kings, but I'm thinking 2 queens. I'm thinking the guy is getting kind of short. Guy in Visor, he's getting a little bit short. So he could have a variety of things. I'm going to give him somewhere in the neighborhood of like ace queen, maybe suited, maybe not. Now, by the way you've told the story, it sounds like Hassan Habib's cousin.
Masood Pour Habib.
Right. It sounds like he kind of had some douchey type hand. So I'm going to guess that he got kind of freaky, got a little jiggy with us with like King Jack suited.
All right, Chris Bell.
Wow.
The play of this hand, what do you think?
I'm guessing Jennifer had something bigger than that. I'm thinking she probably had king to aces. The guy that was short stack, like he said, he could have anything. He could have anything from 10s or jacks to ace queen, and just felt like he had to go with the hand. But if I had to guess, I'd say he probably had ace king, and the last guy I'm gonna say he had ace queen and won the hand.
The way it went down was Tilly flipped over 2 aces.
Ooh, good call, Chris.
Guy and Visor had king jack, which you said he didn't have much of a hand, but he had to kind of go with it at that point. Masood Pour Habib had ace 7 of spades.
Well, maybe he knew the 2 sevens come.
I bet he won.
No, he didn't win. Jennifer Tilly held up, and she got a hold of 160,000 in chips, and then she actually ended up going broke by the end of the day. But I mean, talk about the play of this hand a little bit. I mean, if you have that many chips,
I'm going to say one thing. Jennifer Tilly played it great.
Right. I like her play.
She never made a mistake in that hand. Way to go, J. Till. That's why you're a bracelet holder. Okay. The other guy probably jumped the gun. Jennifer's not known as a real loose play. You don't need to be re-raising her with King Jack. I mean, you're starting to get semi-short. That's the time you really want to tighten up, and you don't want to be playing a King Jack there. So, Guy and Visor, a little too loose, bro. Hassan Habib's cousin, goofball.
Yeah, what in the world is he doing?
A raise, re-raise. Raise, re-raise. You look down, you see ace 7 of spades. You should be like calling for cocktails. I mean, you're not even considering playing this hand. It's so ridiculously nuts to even think about playing it to a raise and a re-raise. Yeah, but then to put in number 3,
he could have dumped it if he looked at the 7 first.
Right. you put in number 3. That makes you're now on moron status. Okay, now it gets moved in and called. Now to call 44,000, you've now somehow superseded moron status and gone to Slamastica moron status. I mean, it's unbelievably bad play.
So even just the re-raise, and I'm just doing this for the benefit of the listeners. I know it's a bad re-raise, but honestly, to make the 20,000 is even a bad play. I mean, there's not you're not picking up any money there.
It's not a bad play. It's not a bad play. It's a horrible play. Like, even if it happened that Jennifer didn't have a hand, the other dude's
He's supposed to have a hand.
He's pot committed, and he's supposed to have a hand. You're not moving him off anything. Like, was this guy's read so good that he thought Jennifer didn't have a hand. She'd lay it down, and then he could play against King Jack because he knew this guy that was re-raising had to have King Jack.
That they were sharing King Queen.
I mean, it's impossible. I mean, it's just so silly. It's like that play is like the worst played hand I've ever heard of on the show.
Wow.
Who all was at the table?
The people got.
I'm sure there's a lot of talk about that.
Well, at the table, there's a lot of talk about the hand, and the thing was that table was so stacked. I don't know, maybe these two got nervous or something. It was Helmuth. It was first of all, Tilly started the day with almost 100,000 in chips. So it was Tilly with 100,000 in chips, Helmuth, Amnon Philippi, Grinder, Scotty Wynn, and the chip lead, either 1 or 2 in chips, was this poor Habib guy. So you had a couple people who are, the one guy was a nut with a ton of chips, and then you had a bunch of very good players at the table.
He just came back from day 1 and saw his day 2 table and panicked. That's all.
You think so?
He was ready to get the hell out of there.
Even that, if you get at a stacked table, if you got half of a brain, if you get at a stacked table, you play tighter. You don't play like an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, being at a stacked table should mean that you're less likely to get in trouble because you're going to play tight.
Well, think about it. When you watch the WPT, you see people just go crazy. When they're in the final 6, just do something they never do before in their life.
Yeah, like call up a huge re-raise with Ace 9.
Right. That's because they want to give their buddy a chance to be famous. That's all.
He was squeezed between Grinder and I think he was squeezed between Grinder and then Scotty was maybe 2 to his left. So he probably wasn't in the best spot in the world. But
if he was looking to get the top pros respect. Didn't happen.
Failed miserably. We have another good hand from that table. We will do that tomorrow right here on the circuit. Just to let everyone know, today, 2 excellent things going on. Number 1 is at 3 p.m. Pacific time. You can watch at www.liveatthebike.com or www.cardplayer.com. You can watch the circuit crew take on the Live at the Bike crew, Gavin Smith and Joe Seabach against Dave Tuckman and Bart Hansen in a heads-up double shootout, all proceeds to benefit babyhannum.com. And that also brings us to tonight at 7 p.m. Come right down here to the bike and check it out. Buy-in, $1,000 buy-in, lots of great prizes to benefit a great friend of ours who passed away just a few weeks ago. And this will benefit his fiance and unborn daughter. So come down here.
Who I believe is now being named. I believe her name's going to be Cameron.
Okay.
So we can actually call her Cameron now, I think.
Okay, then we are also playing for Cameron here tonight. $1,000 buy-in. Again, is first place a $25,000 seat?
First place is a $25,000 seat in the World Poker Tour Championship event. Second place is a $12,000 package donated by Full Tilt Poker to go play the WPT tournament of your choice.
Cool.
Third place is a trip with tournament buy-in plus the full package to PokerStars.com's oops.
You can say .com on here.
Of course. To PokerStars Caribbean Adventure.
It's not the World
January.
Series again, buddy.
Fourth place is a trip donated by Paradise Poker to their Caribbean Adventure. I think it's in St. Martin or something like that. I think Oakley's given up a pair of Thumper glasses. We got some great prizes. There's going to be all sorts of great people there. We're going to have fun and
pros too. You get to play against some of your heroes.
There's going to be like a lot of top pros there. And you know what? We're just going to honor the greatest guy, man, the one that, a super friend of ours, and try and make Sarah and Cameron a whole bunch of money.
Yes, come down here, playing it, do it. Come down here tonight to the bike, Bell Gardens. I don't know the exact address, but you can look it up. Go to www.thebike.com and check it out. We'll be back right after this with emails and phone calls for us right here on the circuit. Card Player is back on the tournament trail starting right here at the WPT Legends of Poker. We'll be with you all tournament season long with live updates, chip counts, videos, and the circuit. Check it out every day at www.cardplayer.com. Welcome back to the circuit, everyone. We are here at the Legends of Poker, just 45 minutes away from the start. And Joe Seabach has joined us.
I made it. Ooh,
made it.
Welcome back.
I ran
man,
all the way
me.
from the valley. I'm tired.
But you're here just
how was the girl?
Our audience.
How was the girl that you were with in the valley?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You were just talking about it.
Yeah, you were just talking about it before you came in here.
Guys, we need to have a conversation about on-air conversations and off-air conversations and how they are different. They are not the same.
Sorry. Circuit voice.
Circuit. So, Joe, how was your meeting in the valley? I'm doing air quotes right now.
It was unbelievable. I have to be honest with you. The meeting would not let go, and I had to leave.
Well, now you're here.
Was it productive?
To interact with our loyal fans, and we will start first with an email here, and then I'll let Danny. How many phone calls do we have, Danny? We have 3 phone calls.
Whoa.
Oh, my God. All right, then guess what? I'm not going to read this email. Phone calls. Danny, take it away. Because it's boring.
Hey, what's up? This is Mike. I'm curious about the story behind this rumor that Gavin Smith is bringing Sexy back. but just so he can eat it. Thanks.
I'm not even going to pretend I know what that means.
What did he say? Is bringing sexy
back?
You're bringing sexy back, but apparently only to eat it.
What is that?
Isn't that what he said?
What exactly does that mean?
I don't know.
Does anybody know what it means?
But I know it's going to be a T-shirt that we're going to sell.
I'm going to
Gavin Smith, and it's going to have you on the front. It's going to say on the back, "Bringing sexy back," just so we can eat it.
Okay, you know what? That is like the stupidest call I've ever heard because I have no clue what it means.
Although it is true, you are bringing sexy back. I agree with the caller.
We talked yesterday about how you're bringing sexy back. That's the thing.
I didn't listen to the show.
We did?
Well, you should have. Yeah, we talked about how Gavin was bringing sexy back. Just like the sexiness back. All right, next phone call.
You are sexy. I literally don't have a clue.
Andrew from Maine. I have a question for Gavin. I've been sweating you a lot on Full Tilt lately, and you don't play anything like the maniac that you sound like on the show. You actually play kind of tight in the cash games. And I was just wondering if there's a reason that you play so insanely in the tournaments and not in the cash games. Thanks. Bye.
Gavin the Rock.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I do probably play cash games and tournaments are completely different. So I do play cash games differently than I play tournaments. But if you're really sweating me on Full Tilt, I mean, I play almost exclusively shorthanded. I don't play tight. I play a lot of hands, and I play pretty loose. But I mean, whenever you're going to see showdowns, of course it's going to kind of look like I'm playing tight because if a hand goes to showdown, I mean, I've got to have a hand. I mean, so, I play cash games tighter than I play tournaments, but I don't play tight. So sweat more, and you'll learn.
Right, and that's actually a really good point. If you see a hand to completion, typically the people are going to have two hands. I mean, a lot of these crazy moves and things and stuff that we talk about on the show, you're never going to see the hands. I mean, if you're making a move on somebody, you don't want to call, so you're trying to push them out. So you're probably never going to see those cards.
Obviously, you didn't see you run the 4-6 through Ram Vaswani's 2 kings that night from the suite of Bellagio, or he would think you run you're so tight in the $15,000 pot.
or the 10-8 on Peter Feldman in the $20,000 pot that I make the gut shot on the river and bust in.
He's obviously tune in more for more Gavin Smith antics on FullTiltPoker.com. All right, next call.
Hey guys, this is Jeff from Austin. This question's mainly for Gavin since he's been playing poker professionally the longest.
It's a good thing you came, Joe.
I know. Right?
When you're traveling around all the time and just playing poker, do you ever have times where you feel pretty miserable about just playing cards and not contributing anything to society?
What?
Because I was playing pretty much professionally until college started for me.
Oh, okay.
2 weeks ago, and I cashed out pretty much everything and decided to focus on school. But I always got the impression that my dad was kind of like worried about me, as opposed to being proud of the money that I was making. So, but there were also like moments I would have when I would just like feel like I was doing nothing good, and I would just be miserable if I played poker my whole life. So. Anyway, just keep up the good work, and I'll be living the tournament circuit vicariously through you guys until I turn 21.
Actually, it's not a terrible question because I have thought about that over the time being, but I don't believe that I'm not giving anything to society. For starters, I pay taxes on my money, so that gives something back. For start, I do a reasonable amount of charity work that gives back, but more importantly, I think I give something to people. I mean, people play poker because they want entertainment. And when they play poker with me, a lot of times, they're getting entertainment. That's something they're spending their money on. Some people like to go watch movies. Some people like to go to bars. Some people just really like to play poker. And so...
Dude, you are entertaining.
A lot of times,
you're very entertaining.
What made me really realize this was when a lot of times I'd go and I'd play like in the 1-2 no limit games, and I'd sit down, and these people would be like just ecstatic that I'm taking the time to play poker with them in the 1-2 game, and they, it was great for them, and they didn't care if I won, if I lost, they didn't care anything. They cared that they had the opportunity to play poker with a professional, and I mean, I think that's got value. That makes people enjoy their poker experience.
So, if entertainment doesn't have value, I should be as depressed as anyone who plays poker all the
time. So in answer to the question, do I feel like I'm not giving anything to society? No, I think I give plenty to society.
And you also do a lot of charity. I mean, you don't have to hide what you do. I mean, you do a whole lot for charity, and you wouldn't be able to do that if you were doing something differently, because you could, but you couldn't do it as much as you do. As much money as you give is because you won a lot of money.
All right.
A lot of players do. I mean, a lot of people do it, including
group hug. Everybody, we love Gavin. He's okay. He's a good guy. Go to the next question.
That's it. That's all the questions that we have. But we do have Chad Brown ready to come in right now and do some circuits. So right after this, we will have Chad Brown for you right here on our radio program. You know, a lot of things in life can be pretty boring, like being stuck in an elevator, sitting in on a 2-hour lecture on astrophysics, or being forced to go to your girlfriend's friend's wedding. But Card Player has what you need to get you through the monotony of life. Take Card Player wherever you go with the all-new Card Player Mobile. Text the word TRIAL, TRIAL, to the number 96262 on your mobile phone. Go to www.cardplayermobile.com. On your phone's browser, you will see chip counts, updates, and copies of our magazine. Take us, Card Player, the poker authority, with you everywhere you go.
Hello, this is Greg Raymer, and you're listening to The Circuit.
Welcome back to The Circuit, everyone. We are here at the 2006 Legends of Poker at the Bike. Scott Huff, Gavin Smith, and Joe Seabach here. Our guest today is a poker professional with over $1.1 million in lifetime tournament earnings. He is also the host of the Ultimate Poker Challenge and the forthcoming Poker Parlor. Chad Brown, how's it going?
It's going well. How you guys doing?
We are doing fantastically
Hanging in there.
well.
You know, I think Chad is actually not even, you can't even just call him a poker professional because he does so many different things. He's just a professional.
He's just the professional?
He's just a professional human.
Do you have a nickname yet, Chad?
Vince Van Patten called me on my final table, Downtown Chad Brown.
I don't like that.
I don't like that. I like the professional.
I like the professional.
I like the
Chad
better.
the professional Brown. New name.
I like it.
It is ordained. He's like, you have to use it. When you leave here, just go around, hi, I'm the professional. Kind of like Silver Fox.
Yes.
Although we found out, should we tell them what we found out about Silver Fox?
Oh, we got to leave Silver
Mel
Fox.
Silver Fox
I want to talk
Jr.
about
is
Chad.
actually
I want to talk about Chad.
I know, but I just want to let
Let's talk
them know
about
right now that Mel Silver Fox Jr.'s real nickname is Lucky. So first off, Chad, why don't you tell us how the Legends of Poker went for you?
Made it to day 2, and probably I had a hand. I got knocked out yesterday with pocket tens. It was under the gun raise. I just flat called, and the flop came Jack 9 deuce with 2 spades, and I knew the player who was betting. I knew he didn't have any piece of that flop, and I would say about 70% of the time I would raise on the flop, but he's aggressive. If I show weakness, he'll fire out a bet on the turn. So I got a little greedy, wanted him to fire out a bet on the turn, so I just flat called, and I was going to raise him on the turn. Then a scare card came on the turn, which was actually a really big card for me. An 8 came. Give me an open and straight. Mm-hmm. Now he fired out on the turn again, and I love my hand. And then on the river, a blank. Oh, actually, not a blank. The river came top pair jacks, paired with board jacks, and I knew he didn't have a jack. And then we both had about the same amount of chips. He had been covered by like $1,000, so he put in his last 15, and I called, and he hit the 2 outer on the turn. He had pocket 8s.
Yep. Wow.
So that was it. I was a little like, when you know about 70% of the time, I would normally raise on the flop with that, and then he would have mucked his 8s. I never get upset if I take a bad beat. I get upset more if I feel I misplayed a hand.
Well, is that a really tough hand to see? It feels like when someone turns a set like that on those types of boards, it's really tough to see or get the feel that they may have rolled a set on you. Do you guys find that a difficult hand to sniff out more so than others, or not so much?
Certainly in the situation where Chad was playing, where the person already had the lead, so he continued with the lead, then it's very difficult to sniff out. Obviously, if you have the lead and somebody all of a sudden gets aggressive, you're tipped off a little bit more. But Chad kind of got blindsided in the sense that the guy just continued betting. I mean, that was how he was going to play the hand, and so he continued to do so. So it's tough to sniff it out.
And he would have continued betting. At least the turn, he would have fired a second bullet,
right? Even
if the 3 of spades would have come on the turn. So that was my strategy, was to extract more chips from him, where if I would have raised, he would have just laid it down, because I knew he didn't have any piece of that board.
Right.
So it's a fine line. What decision do you make? Do you try and gamble and get more chips, because I didn't have a lot of chips, and I wanted to double up, so I wanted to trap him into thinking I was weak, and that's the way it goes.
You didn't feel at any point, or at least did you consider that there might be enough in there that it was worth, significantly increasing your stack without having any more future risk in the hand?
Well, on the turn, obviously now when he fired,
no, I'm more talking about the flop thing.
No, the flop, there wasn't enough. I was, like I said, Gavin, I knew the player. I knew he would fire.
Right.
I knew he would fire, and I knew he didn't have any piece of the flop. And I just knew that, he's going to fire out double what he fired out on.
But what I'm getting at here is what type of a hand did you give him? Did you give him a hand that had
couldn't beat me? Yeah.
No, but a hand that couldn't draw out on you.
No, he could draw. I put him on having like either ace king or ace queen, and that's okay because I could get away from my hand if that one of those cards come. You know, I know he'll fire out of it. So I was gambling on the fact that he's got one card to hit 6 outs.
Right.
As opposed to, I didn't even know he had one card to hit 2 outs.
So you're actually in better shape. Yeah.
Right, I was in better shape than I thought. By the way, I want to say, you guys started this show. What an incredible band you guys have here. This band, that band is great.
They're good. I'm not going to lie to you. He's talking about the music that Danny puts together. Oh.
Look, those guys just come on call.
It's unbelievable. They stand here before every show and just jam it out for like 15 seconds. And then we're
drawing quite a crowd today. How long have you been traveling the professional tournament circuit for?
I've always been a cash game player, and I would say about 2 years ago, that's when I started, when all the poker tournaments and the TV and all that really got big. That's when I dove into it and said, you know what, there's going to be a lot of additional equity besides what you can earn in the tournaments in the future. And I think we all believe that down the road there's going to be some big corporate sponsorships, and the only way for you to be a favorite in those corporate sponsorships is to be a known player. You have to be perceived by the public. Like there are a number of players, like for instance Chip Reese, before he won the horse event, to the public nobody even really knew who Chip Reese was, but he's one of the top poker players in the world.
Right.
So you need to have the perception becomes reality. So you need to have the perception to the public, which is what the corporations then want to give you a deal.
Right. I noticed when I was going through your results that right around the last 2 years or so, like 05 and 06, you had some results from 03, a few little cashes here, cashes there. It seemed like you were around the $100,000 mark each year, and then all of a sudden there's this big spike in 05 and 06. Was it just a matter of coming on and playing more, or was there some sort of turning point where all of a sudden you were cashing left and right, making final tables? We've obviously seen you a bunch on TV now. Was there a turning point, or just virtue of playing more?
Two things. One, every World Series I would only play in about 3 or 4 events. I would always play in the stud event, and it wasn't until 4 years ago I actually played in the main event for the first time. So the side action at the World Series in Vegas would always be fantastic. So I would be occupying most of my time playing the cash games. So 2 years ago, not only did I start playing more tournaments, but also I was still on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe in No Limit Hold'em, maybe a 5. And in the last year or so, elevated that quite a bit higher.
Have you worked with anybody, or has it just been a function of you playing more yourself to kind of elevate from that 5 you're talking about?
No Limit Hold'em to me is, like, let's use the grinder for example. Mm-hmm. The grinder has great natural instincts about people, and really No Limit Hold'em versus all the other games are really about playing your opponents. With me, I've always had great poker instincts, and so my feel for where players are at and the simple mathematics that go into No Limit Hold'em, that I adapted to well. Mm-hmm. Along the way, of course, I've made mistakes, and every time I make a mistake, I'll discuss with your dad. I'll discuss with Ted Forrest. People who I respect, who I feel know more than I do, and discuss. Hey, I think I made a mistake in this hand, and this is what happened. And they'll tell me why they think I made a mistake too, or say, no, I don't think you made a mistake.
Right.
If you can walk us through a little bit, you said you've always had good poker instincts. How long have you been playing cards for? Sort of what was the evolution of you into a poker player, maybe even since childhood, or however you came up in the game?
Well, I grew up in the Bronx in New York, and I used to play with friends in little Italian cafes. So it was social, and there weren't big games, but on a regular basis, I would say I was winning about 80% of the time. So it was fun, of course, because when you win, it's a lot more fun than when you're losing. And then
I've heard that. I don't know the difference because I always lose, but I've heard that it's more fun.
And when I moved from...
I like to win.
I moved from New York to L.A. for acting. I didn't even know that poker was legal in the casinos. And I was prepared to get a job as... when I was in college, I was bartending. So I was prepared to get a job like as a bartender in one of the happening clubs. I thought that would have been cool. It's a happening club in L.A. and make some money, check out some chicks. And, bartenders, let me tell you, bartenders do pretty well with the chicks.
I can imagine.
Nice.
It's like their entire lifestyle.
I'm going to be a bartender now.
So I went out there and I said, wow, there's a casino out here. And I didn't even know it was legal. And then I didn't know if I would be able to win in these games as I was winning in my friends' games back home. So I gave it a try, and I was successful at it, and then that was it. I never wound up getting that bartender job.
It's funny how poker tends to derail those other plans, isn't
right.
it?
Well, we mentioned
Joe wants to be a truck driver.
Well, no. I don't want to be. I may be forced into becoming a truck driver because my poker is so bad, it seems like.
Well, that's what we announced at the end of the show. You're going to do long hauls with the Bear.
I'm going to do long hauls with the Bear.
Well, we mentioned, you were just mentioning corporate sponsorship, and one thing that I think is interesting is the consistency looking through your results that I've seen. The past couple of years have been very, very consistent. You made a couple final tables here, a couple final tables there, yet waiting for the big, big score. And what I'm wondering these days, I mean, obviously Jamie Gold wins one event. He wins $12 million or possibly now $6 million. And, there's that huge score, and maybe he never even has to work again after the one big score. But if you're looking to be long-term poker professional, is consistency or the one big score, which one would you rather have? You're talking about corporate sponsorship. You're obviously going to get that if you're in the limelight more. If you hit the one big score, you win $2.5 million or you win whatever. I mean, when you look at that, are you still certain? Do you want that one big score just for the satisfaction? Do you want, how do you look at that as far as being a poker professional is concerned?
I look at poker in a practical way. I'm in for the long haul, and it's numbers game. If you play well, it's just a matter of time, and you'll hit some big scores, and that's just the way it is. You just have to try to keep on playing your best, even when you get knocked out. If you know you played well, hey, you know what? It's going to happen. You're going to. People don't understand. A lot of people who are getting into the business don't understand. This is a business where it's set up to fail. If 80% of the time, at least, when you go into tournaments, you're going to fail. So people get frustrated, and a lot of times the frustration creates bad play in the next tournament. You need to understand up front that this is like acting. Acting is set up to fail. I mean, I'll go on 10 auditions. If I get one of the 10 auditions, I'm doing very well.
Right.
And people get discouraged that, hey, how come I didn't get it? Is it because of me? Do I suck?
Right.
So
I've often said that poker has more rejection than dating and selling life insurance combined.
Right.
It's brutal.
No, it's really. I always compare it to baseball, and it's the same thing as acting. If you're a hitter in baseball and you get a hit 3 times out of 10, you're in the Hall of Fame. You're still failing 70% of the time. So
that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. I mean, you just have, if you understand the numbers, what anyone who's getting into poker should understand what the numbers mean, and you're gonna fail it. Now, you could still be playing bad and failing. Mm-hmm. You need to talk to people that are really good poker players and say, look, for new players that are starting out, I recommend that people take notes of key hands, and so they keep exact facts on the situations and get help from people who are better poker players to see what their insight is.
Yeah, if you're not able to honestly do a self-analysis and be really, really brutally honest about your game, you really can't succeed in this field. Because, I mean, if you're just like one of these guys that's like, well, I know I played great. Like, for instance, a lot of times you hear Mike Matisow, I'm the unluckiest poker player in the world. Right. I played perfect. I just got really super unlucky again. Well, nobody gets unlucky that often. You've probably made mistakes along the way.
Right.
And if you're not able to look at your game and realize, that even the best players in the world make mistakes,
right,
and try to fix it, then you're screwed.
Yeah, and I was going to say, even to the point you were saying about the gentleman with the 2 8s, thinking, oh, maybe I misplayed that. Sometimes you make a mistake and force yourself into getting unlucky, and then it looks as if, oh, I got unlucky, I can't believe this guy did this. But in actuality, you actually put someone in a position where they had to call or where they had to stay in the hand with you, and then got lucky. So
right, someone else may say, who had my situation, say, oh, I got so unlucky. Actually,
exactly.
I feel like I may have misplayed it.
Right, and that's why you're a good poker player.
So, and what Gavin was saying also, I want to make another point. I hear, just like all of you guys here, oh, I played great. And, they'll tell you about that last hand that they played, that they had some chips and they got knocked out. What they're overlooking are the hands before that where, they were in a spot where maybe they had middle pair and the guy was bluffing and, they didn't capitalize. They didn't have a right read. They didn't take game theory, and they didn't take all the other facts involved to realize that, hey, they're laying down the best hand.
Right.
And they don't know that. They don't even know that.
Very true.
Well, speaking of the numbers in poker, it's something we haven't talked about much on the show at all. But when you say
we're no good at it.
Well, no, but I mean just the numbers that you're talking about here of how often you can expect to, let's say, even cash in a poker tournament, a $10,000 buy-in, or even people who are out there multi-tabling all day long. They're trying to play a lot of multi-table tournaments and learn. I mean, what is a reasonable expectation for someone who has a reasonable amount of experience, or even let's just start with what is an expectation for people who play professionally, like all of you do, to even come in the money in a major poker tournament? And what are the percentages that you look at? I mean, what are you happy with?
Well, for me, in the no limit hold'em tournaments, I set my bar, I think, pretty high, that I expect to cash 20% of the time. That's where I set my bar. Now, in other tournaments, like I think the easiest tournament for me to cash in is stud 8 or better, I think. And the reason that is because there's so many players that really don't understand the game. Where no limit hold'em, there's so much information. It's on TV all the time. People are really becoming a student of it. No one's becoming a student of stud 8 or better. So in the stud 8 or better tournaments, I see like great players, champion Phil Hellmuth, a whole bunch of other players who don't have a clue.
Right.
They're making so many big mistakes. So that in those tournaments, I expect to actually cash. People might think I'm crazy, but I expect to cash 35% of the time.
Mm-hmm. I just love that you call that Phil Hellmuth as a bad stutter.
See, I'm actually completely the opposite of you, Chad, and I actually kind of disagree with setting a standard on how often you cash. I could care less how I cash and how often I cash. And I don't think you should say, well, I need to to feel like I'm doing well, I want to cash 1 out of 5 times, because that's not the objective here. The objective is never cashing. The objective is winning. And you could cash 1 out of 5 times and be a huge losing player.
I agree with that.
And so, I mean, I just don't think that's.
Well, it's not. I don't call it success to cash. What basically what I'm saying is it's a numbers game within a numbers game.
Right.
If you like for instance in this event here at the WPT here at the Bicycle Club, if you get into the money, you went from 466 players. Now you're within 45 players of first place. Well, you get into 45 players enough times, the deck's going to hit you some of those times, and when the deck hits you, you're getting to the final table.
Right, and my question, too, was more along the lines of what is a reasonable expectation. What should people out there expect was what I was asking, not what Chad necessarily does himself as far as, but, do you want to cash wasn't really the question. It's more along the lines of, for people out there who are trying to learn, if they're not winning, if they're not cashing 8 out of 10 tournaments, they may be getting disappointed because they just expect too much, or they think they're playing so well. That was more my question.
You know what I would say even is don't focus so much on, for listeners out there on cashing. Just, honestly, I take it down to the minute level of just making correct decisions over and over and over. I just want to play hands correctly. That's what I focus on. If I don't cash, I don't cash. If I don't win it, I don't win it. But I want to make sure I'm not making mistakes.
I think a really good place to start on whether or not you're doing well in tournaments is focus on the number of times you play in a tournament and you get double the chips you started with. You get to double the chips you started with, because that's important. I mean, that shows that you're at least making progress and you're getting somewhere, and start figuring out how quickly you can get to double the chips you started with, and that's when you know you're good. If you can double up in this game, you're gonna cash lots of times. That's important. Getting to twice your stack.
Dude, I got to sextuplet the amount of chips that I started with, and I did not cash.
It doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter that you didn't cash this time. If you can keep doing that, if you keep accumulating chips, that's when you know you're going to start doing something in poker.
Well, you see, again, it comes down to a numbers game. If you get into the money, and let's just say hypothetically you're in the money at chip average. How many times are there going to be situations where all your chips are going in and you're a coin flip? So that means 50% of the time you're going to double up and you're going to have a lot of chips when you're already in the money, which is going to propel you to have a great opportunity to make it to the final table. And then I look at it in 3 segments. I look at it, you start the tournament, one segment is make it into the money. Now you have a great opportunity to make it to the final table if you catch a couple of hands. Now, when you make it to the final table, now it's another numbers game. Eventually, you're going to win one because you make it to the final table. It's going to, there's going to be a day where it's your day. You're going to get cards. You're going to have a cold deck situation, and you're just going to accumulate all the chips, and you're going to win. And that's just the way it is.
How would you characterize, obviously there's some philosophical differences in the way you and Gavin think, but there are with a lot of players. And Gavin, how would you characterize your playing style overall, would you say?
Well, Gavin and I actually sound like we disagree, but actually we pretty much do agree. I'm not looking to make the money. I never, even when I'm on the bubble, I'm not like, okay, now I'm going to play tight. Actually, to the contrary, if there are people who are short stacked at my table who are trying to make the money, I'm going to exploit that weakness. That's a weakness.
Right.
And I'm going to take advantage of that and try and accumulate a lot of chips at that point. And I don't care if I get knocked out. So it's not a goal like I want to make the money. It's just a fact that if you're playing well as Joe said, you just keep playing well. The cream will always rise to the top. If you keep playing well, you will make the money, and when you make the money, you will sometimes make the final table. It's just a fact, the way it goes.
True. Right. Well, you have a couple of TV ventures that I was saying in the intro here of you. Do you feel like, and I feel like for me, definitely the broadcasting aspect has helped me learn the game a lot more. Is that something that are you seeing a lot more hands now from the broadcasting side and learning a lot about the game from watching all these players as well?
You know what? I don't even think it's because I'm watching. I think it's because I'm actually openly, verbally analyzing it. We all know what's right and what's wrong, but actually when you actually verbalize it and you're trying to teach someone, you're actually putting it in your conscious mind and you apply it yourself when you go into a tournament. So there's no doubt it's helped me out. But it's not like I'm the one who's given the analysis. I already know the information, and it's subjective too. The great part, like for instance on the Ultimate Poker Challenge, one of the great things about that show that I think is very informative to a lot of the viewers is that I have a different co-host every show, and they're all world-class No Limit Hold'em players, and it's funny, everyone, like Gus Hansen is going to have a different philosophy than Barry Greenstein. But both of them have success in their own right, and it's just different styles. So people get to learn different ways to play hands and a different point of view, and then you have to take what your strength is. You have to know who you are as an individual. Someone can't just say, I want to play like Gus Hansen. That has to be your personality.
That's true.
So you have to take what your personality is and then develop a game to your strength.
And you have what's the new show that's coming out now? It's Poker Parlor. Is that the one that hasn't been released yet?
Poker Parlor is it's going to be a really big hit, I think. We have 3 guest top pros that are going to analyze different situations, show a hand from tournaments with different players, and discuss whether they played it right. And it's funny, on a couple of shows I've done already, you have a couple of pros on there that are actually disagreeing with each other. So it just goes to show you it's really subjective. People have a whole different point of view of the right way to play a hand.
Right. I love when you guys argue.
I just taped that show yesterday.
We do it a lot. Oh, you did?
Yeah. Me and Lane Flack and Chris Bell were on it yesterday, and
the 3 of you at the same time.
We didn't always agree.
And Joe's going to be on tomorrow.
Right. I'll be doing it tomorrow with I believe Cloney and Kenna.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'll have a Cloney Kenna sandwich.
Well, listen, that'll be fun. That'll be fun, Joe.
With some Joe in the middle.
One thing about Cloney, I give her a lot of credit. She's a woman who's very opinionated, and she doesn't back down. She believes in something. She'll definitely argue with you.
I'll beat her down. Don't worry.
And when do we know when the new season of the Ultimate Poker Challenge is coming on, or when they're starting the new one up?
Yes, season 3 is starting. It's actually going to be at the world famous Binion's Horseshoe in Las Vegas, and it's going to start around November 1st. A couple of days earlier. Check the listings. It's going to be like 2 weeks straight. They'll have low buy-ins. I think they're going to start with 300. Each Ultimate Poker Challenge tournament, the final table is televised. So for a lot of people who can't afford the $10,000 buy-ins and they want to have an opportunity to make national TV, this is their opportunity on the smaller buy-ins in the early rounds.
That's really cool. November 1st, my birthday, so if they start up then, maybe I'll play one of those 300s, see if I can get on TV and have Chad rip my play apart.
Hey, you get on TV and then we all got to go out and celebrate your birthday.
Absolutely.
I know Gavin knows a few good places around there.
That sounds great. Now all I have to do is make the final table, I guess. Do we have a phone call over there? All right, phone call for Chad Brown right now. Danny, take it away.
Hey, guys. This is Eric from Brooklyn, New York. Big fan of the show, first-time caller. I got a question for Chad Brown. Chad, I know when you first started, you were on ESPN with WSOP. You were known as as an actor playing cards. And I was just wondering how, as an up-and-coming poker player, you lose the stigma or break the stigma of your day job, and what you have to do for people to start considering you a poker player first, and not what your day job was before you became successful. So anyways, just wondering, is it winning? Is it playing in all the events? That's about it. Good luck. Love the show. Like I said, take care.
Thank you, Eric.
Yes. So his question was, what do you think took for you to actually be considered a card player as opposed to an actor card player?
Well, I'll tell you what, Eric. Actually, I never actually wanted to, there's two different philosophies. You have the Phil Hellmuth or Mike Mattisell philosophy of telling the world how great you are, or I'd rather be actually underestimated, and I try to keep a low profile. But what happens is you keep making final tables, and then people start to realize you're a poker player. So I didn't have the ego part that I wanted approval from all the other poker players. I'd rather stay under the radar and be underestimated. That's a strength, to be underestimated. So, but listen, once you start cashing, it's not by coincidence you keep on making final tables. It's not by coincidence you're doing something right.
Well, when you say being underestimated, you did end up coming right from the Bay 101 to the Heads Up Championship. Is that right?
That's right.
And you ended up playing Phil Ivey Heads Up in the first round, and that's probably one of those occasions where people were just like, they thought Phil was going to win the whole thing, and then you went and knocked him off right there in the first round. Is that another one of those? Do you think that Phil maybe? I mean, you obviously know him, I'm sure, from being out on the tour. Do you think he overestimated his edge against you? I mean, how did that match go down? Really, it's just something probably that wasn't talked about too much, but I'd love to hear a little bit of insight into.
Well, before Phil Ivey became a superstar, Phil and I played a lot of cash games together. So actually, we have a lot of experience with each other's game. Phil definitely wasn't underestimated. He was not underestimating me. Phil played extremely well, and I felt I played really well. I got lucky. I should have been knocked out by him, but there was really nothing I could do. It wasn't a bad play on my part. I got extremely lucky to chop a pot. Phil would have won the match. I had raised on the button with ace, I think it was ace 6 of spades. Phil called, and flop came ace 8 deuce, and Phil led into me. Now, when Phil led into me, my instincts were strong, and I said, I didn't even raise him. I was like, I'm sure Phil has an ace, and obviously if Phil has an ace, the odds are that my 6 kicker is no good. So he made a small bet into me, and I just flat called, and I was giving myself an opportunity to actually lay it down on the turn. Now the turn paired the aces, so now I'm like trapped. Phil makes a big bet on the turn, and I'm like, well, I'm either all in or I muck, and I pushed all in. And of course, Phil had aces full of 8s, and I'm drawing to 2 outs to chop. So the 8 comes on the river, and actually, in all truthfulness, I even told Phil, and Phil laughed about it. In our cash games when we played shorthanded stud, Phil, I would like. Not exaggerating, 80% of the time in the hands I played against Phil, I would have the best hand, and he sucked out on me so many. I said, well, Phil, I said, the odds are just breaking out, and it's breaking even right now. I said, the 8 came on the turn. Phil laughed about it. He was a good sport about it. And then I went on to win that match. But I played Phil very well, and Phil was playing extremely well also.
What kind of cash games were you guys playing in when you said you used to play cash together?
For the most part, before the mixed games became on a regular basis, there was the 1 in 200 stud game at the Commerce was an everyday occurrence, and then sometimes it'd be 4 and 8. So we played quite a lot of hours together playing that game. And then what happened with Phil is Phil went into the Larry Flint game and never looked back. He went into that game and just crushed it, and.
But you were playing 1 and 2 and 4 and 8. Just it's interesting because they don't talk too much about. They don't give a lot of background on a lot of the shows of where you guys all came from.
Right.
But that's to know that you played that high is interesting, since I've always seen you on TV as a predominantly a tournament player. So
I was actually never a tournament player until the last 2 years. I mean, I've been playing cash game for years.
Excellent,
Scott. I think it's important too to note that. A lot of times, people think that if you're playing a super great player like Phil Ivey or one of their Doyle Brunson or one of the top names in poker that you're going to be really nervous playing against these guys. But you have to remember, when you're playing one of the top guys, it really takes a lot of the pressure off you. All the pressure is on the guy that everyone thinks is going to win, right? So, like, if you go in there and you're playing Phil Ivey, you can actually probably play a little looser than in a lot of cases, and you're not nervous because there's no pressure on you. You're expected to lose.
Gavin, you're absolutely right. When Eric Drake told me, we flew in, me, David Williams, Fabrizi, we flew in. The owner of the Bay 101 was kind enough to let us use his private jet because we finished so late and we had to play the next morning. David said to me, he said, "Oh, I heard you got to play Phil Ivey." I'm like, good. I was actually it was exactly what Gavin just said. There's no expectation from me, and actually, if I beat Phil, it's like such a big accolade for me.
Right, absolutely. All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck with all of the TV ventures. We'll definitely be watching. I hope to be playing at the Binions on my birthday. We'll see if I can get out of L.A., and we look forward to having you on the show again.
Well, thanks a lot, guys, and continued success with this show.
All right. Chad Brown, everybody. Is that $75 you won in the 50-cent rebuy tournament online burning a hole in your pocket? Check out the Card Player Store. Go to www.cardplayer.com, click on Poker Store, pick up some books, some DVDs. We've got everything you could possibly want for poker-related merchandise. Once again, www.cardplayer.com and click on Poker Store today. All right, we'd like to thank our guest today, Chad Brown, and our guest co-host, Chris Bell, for coming by and doing the show. I'd like to thank you, Gavin Smith, for being here on time. I would like to thank Joe for being here a bit late, but at least you're here for the interview. We appreciate it.
And we want to thank you, Scott Huff.
Thank you.
Always
Tomorrow,
thanking you.
Coming up, the Final Table preview show tomorrow for the Legends of Poker 2006 for Gavin Smith and Joe Seabach and Mel Silverfox Lucky Judah. This is Scott Huff. Goodbye, everybody.
Later.
Goodbye.